Hello everyone, I'm back. Thought I was done, didn't you? Far from it. To clarify, I'm talking about the series itself, the why cigar influencers are assholes, that whole concept and thing that I did in a video a while back. You know, if you haven't, go check it out. Please do. This is a standalone, so you don't necessarily have to watch that video before you watch this one, but it might help. But this week we're going to get a little bit more specific, narrowing in and putting a magnifying glass on something that happens within the cigar community that maybe you've seen before, or maybe you've been kind of like thrust or thrown into the whole drama that comes with it. You remember cliques and clubs in high school? Turns out when you grow up, they don't necessarily go away, they just take different forms. And even in the cigar community, we are not immune to that. Cliques and clubs abound, sometimes almost cult-like, depending. It's just weird. I've seen it. It's bizarre. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. So grab your cigar, your drink, kick back. We're going to still continue talking about why cigar influencers are assholes and the different cliques and cults that can come from certain people of influence and groups that they lead and all that jazz. And anyway, I'll shut up. Watch the intro, please. What's up, everybody? You're watching Dad Smoking Cigars, sponsored by StogieLives.com, Cigar social media, and of course, Casa Cuevas Cigars. From our Casa to yours. Thank you so much for joining me for another Friday video. Hope you guys are doing well. And well, we are back at it. We are talking about why cigar influencers are assholes. Now, if you didn't catch the last video, I really recommend that you do. I'm going to try and leave a link up there if I actually remember to put it there. For the very first video in this whole series, concept, idea, whatever you want to call it, basically talking about the pitfalls of being a cigar influencer. And I've said it before, I don't really care for the word influencer. Like so many other words, unfortunately, it has lost much of its meaning. And as a result, we kind of just like, it turns into this weird little, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's one of those words where it gets used way too often. It loses a lot of its meaning, and it just becomes something that people try to become or do so that way they could possibly get free stuff and get to do cool shit, which, you know, that's nice and all, but hopefully that's not the reason why you're becoming an influencer. I think in the grand scheme of things that becoming an influencer should not be something you aspire to. It should be something that kind of just happens because you get on a platform, whether it's through social media or other means, usually social media, and you just start doing stuff that you love doing. Whether you like to go on TikTok and make funny videos or display what other types of talents that you have, whatever your shtick or your gimmick might be that gets you views and gets you noticed, and hopefully you might actually be able to monetize what you do, because you're having a blast doing it, so why shouldn't you get paid? I think becoming an influencer is something that happens not necessarily by accident, but it should be something that happens organically. Me, for example, in the grand scheme of things, in even the very niche community that is the cigar community, my channel and my influence, I don't have that big of a reach, but at the same time, I still have a degree of influence, and I have been able to get connected with some really amazing people, manufacturers, brands, and stuff like that as a result of doing this. And this was just something I decided to do because I love cigars and my passion for cigars was growing, and I wanted to try more cigars and new cigars, and for better for worse, here I am. I never set out to be an influencer. I never set out to be, you know, someone who, like, I'm trying not to I'm trying not to needle too many people here, but, you know, I didn't set out to get free stuff. I didn't set out to just get the prestige and all of that junk. I set out to have a good time smoking cigars, sharing my passion with people, and it ended up turning into something amazing. And I have a studio in my garage where I smoke my cigars and I make my content and I jabber on and on and on about all things cigars, and thankfully you guys tune in and watch the videos, which I appreciate. But this video goes beyond like the social media stuff and content creation and all of that. This spans out into the cigar community as a whole, in the lounges and the clubs and the different groups that can connect together either through social media or in real life, and the various groups of people that get together in different places to smoke cigars, have fun, and have good conversation. And there are some people who have a great deal of influence over this group or this club. Maybe they're the leader of that club or that clique, or they just somehow became a very big deal among their group of people or in that lounge because they're always there, or whatever the case is. The cigar community is real people. It's not just people you see on your phone or on a computer screen. We're real people, and we like to get together and hang out, and sometimes we do that, and sometimes we get connected with these people that we see on social media, and we end up kind of falling in with this group of people that we spend a regular amount of time with. With that, you're going to rub elbows with a lot of people. You're going to interact with a lot of different people, and in the midst of that, like if you're going to events and you're going to different places and maybe you notice that cigar influencer over there, it's somebody you recognize and somebody you've wanted to meet, sometimes weird things can start to happen. What do I mean by that? Well, like I said in the beginning of the video, remember how in high school there were all these different cliques and clubs and sometimes even like cults, by the way they behaved, of people that they just stuck to their own little group. They just stuck to their own little camp of people, and sometimes that camp might not like that other camp over there, and so things start to get said about them. Maybe your camp, your clique of people, doesn't like that clique of people over there, or maybe you once knew that person over there, used to be good friends, and then you split off into different groups and cliques and all of that kind of stuff. As you're rubbing elbows with people, you start to interact with people that maybe you're networking with or you end up making friends with, but at some point or another, and it doesn't always happen, but it does happen, you're going to meet people that, well, they're not the most pleasant of folks to interact with, and they might actually be a little bit on the awful side. Now, obviously, you can only base what you think about them on your own experience with them. It's not as if you immediately thought they were an awful person, but they started displaying behavior that was, well, a little bit awful. And especially when it comes to people of influence, there are people who get into it for the right reasons, and others who are getting into it because they want to make a name for themselves. They want to always be in the spotlight. They want to get connected and hooked up with these bigger name people so that way they can kind of, hitch their wagon to their star. And I have seen that happen where, as opposed to networking, they're essentially trying to ride someone else's coattails, and maybe they're doing it to spite somebody else, or they're trying to get in somebody else's way by networking with that person first, or getting to that brand before they do, and things like that. And it's stuff like that that can actually start or cause fracture within the community. Beyond that, some of the groups that I've also witnessed, I've been a part of just to kind of give a bit of backdrop, I've been a part of a bunch of different clubs before. When I first started getting involved with the cigar community, there were some clubs that I had heard about that I really wanted to be a part of, and I got into them and excited. I was very loyal to my clubs, and then over time, I started to get a little less interested in being part of a club, not because I have anything against being part of a club or group or community within the cigar community, because there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are fantastic. It's just, it was something I didn't feel as compelled to do anymore. And there was some additional reasons for that as well. Within some of these groups, there are those who founded and started those groups, and people started to kind of flock to that group and become a member and interact with the people in that group. And unfortunately, especially as different cigar influencers cross paths, maybe they were once friends, then something happened, and then there was again fracture, and then there was a split. And it's one thing when that happens, but it is a whole other thing when rivalries start to develop. Now, I don't have the emotional or mental fortitude to have a rivalry with anyone. If you got something against me, then speak up. Hit me up, send me a message, let's meet up, let's talk, if it's at all possible to kind of clear things up. But so far as I can tell, I haven't developed any rivalries or, enmity with anyone. And so when I witness it, it really, really gets under my skin because I see how people can be and how they can treat each other. And it's one thing to have like a little bit of a beef with someone or just not like them, but it's a whole other thing when I start to see people saying shit that is just messed up and just saying, you know, F that person, or this person's a piece of crap, or this guy, don't ever talk to them, or this girl, don't ever interact with her, etc., etc. And then there's just all of this bad blood that starts to develop. And this is bad in any community, much less the cigar community, because we smoke these to relax, wind down, de-stress, and if we are fortunate enough to get to do it with other people who are like-minded and just want to kick back and smoke a cigar, then we are forgetting the whole reason why we do this. If you can make this a career, like the content creation, you know, cigar content creation, you end up getting sponsorships and deals with brands. Maybe you actually end up working for them and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe just because, you know, your group, your club starts to take off, membership starts to soar, and you're able to monetize that, you know, people paying for memberships or paying for certain types of subscriptions where they get benefits and perks and things like that. You know, certain clubs have a lot to offer, and if you're a part of them, you actually get some pretty good deals out of it. But sometimes there are people who head up those clubs who, once their britches got a little bit too big, that's when, you know, that's when the discomfort and the cringe can start to happen, because they start to, as I've mentioned in the last video, really believe their own hype. To quote Ron Burgundy, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal. That's the attitude that you get from some people who all of a sudden they get a taste of success and they're like, yeah, that's who I am. Don't you know who I am? Or more accurately, don't you know who I think I am? And all of that kind of stuff. You know, it's awesome to have success in this arena. Content creation, or you're heading up a group or a club or something like that that starts to see growth and success in ways that you're able to actually monetize and make a little bit of a living or generate a revenue stream off of it. Or your networking becomes such that you are able to wield a lot of influence over people. You know, it gets exciting. But then if you start stepping on people, or you start looking at certain people, looking down on certain people, and acting like, you know, those fuckers over there, they're terrible, don't interact with them, those are the real assholes, I'm not the asshole, they're the asshole. I've seen it happen, and it is heartbreaking, it is sad, and it's ridiculous. And the rivalries don't even make sense to me. It's like, if you parted on bad terms with somebody, you did you know, stuff with them for a platform or YouTube or whatever it is, and you just realize you weren't working well together, you parted ways, you know. And if you can't stay friends, then just basically cut your losses and decide to not really associate or interact with the person, not really care what that other person is doing, and just do your own thing. But I've seen people where it's just, they might have been friends at one point, or they might have just at least been okay with each other, and then they just, for whatever reason, after the divergence, you know, they decided to basically take digs at each other and essentially try to bury the other person by being successful, or whatever, you know, rivals tend to do. One up each other, try to be better than each other, try to be the better content creator, or, you know, what the fuck ever. It doesn't make sense to me, because why waste your energy on that? Why waste your energy on trying to put someone else down, or keep them, you know, underfoot, or just keep them in their place because you're doing better, you're the better person, and you're going to, you know, I guess wipe the floor with them? I don't know. It's stupid. It really is stupid. And even if that other person did you dirty, what do they say the best revenge is? A life well lived. So go do your thing. Live your life. Smoke your cigars. Enjoy yourself. And don't really care about what they're doing or how well they're doing it. Doesn't matter. You do you. Let them do them, however great or shitty a person they are. And going back to networking, if you're going to network, don't try to ride other people's coattails. Like, you know, it's great to make connections. If you know someone who knows someone, that could be an amazing thing, and you can actually link up with some great people. But if you're maybe seeing that a person is going to network with this other person and you try to like get in the way of that or beat them to the punch or whatever the case is, most manufacturers and brands are willing to work with multiple people. I mean, I have gotten messages and communications from brands who say, we want to collaborate with you, and I know that they're collaborating with a bunch of other people. Do I take that personally? No. Why? Because there's no point. There's so many other cigar personalities and influencers out there. They are going to want to use every resource to their advantage to get their brand name out there for people to purchase their brand. And where cigar influencers come in is that we get the benefit of sometimes, not always, sometimes getting mailed samples and different types of product for us to try and review and promote for them. It works out for them, works out for us too, because we sometimes get the privilege of free product. But if you are like trying to get in other people's way, step on their toes, scheme and connive behind their back to try and leech off of their connections or their resources or whatever, dick move. Total dick move. Network for yourself. If you can make connections with other people or someone offers to connect you with someone else, fantastic. But don't be trying to essentially, usurp other people's leads. Dick move. And it really, all it does is make people not like you very much. And maybe you don't care about that. Great. But if you're going to be an influencer and you want people to actually, buy what you're selling, or at the very least, commit to your brand or your whatever you're doing, then when you do shit like that and you're stepping on other people's toes and you're doing these shady things, word gets around, and there might be people who really don't care to associate with you. So don't do that. And whatever group or clique or club or cult you belong to, within the cigar community, it needs to be about community. It needs to be about the people that you are communing and fellowshipping with, smoking cigars. That's what it's about. Once you start to put other people down, and that begins a fracture within the community. Once there becomes this whole like, we're better than this group over here or that group over there, a bunch of assholes or whatever. Fracture, community fracture. That is what takes place. And it's okay if you don't like those people. It's okay if you don't want to associate with those people. It's okay if you have a beef with them, but don't air it out on social media. Don't try to sway other people's opinions of those people, because I've had that happen to me where they're just like, oh, you're friends with this person? Well, that person did this and they did that other person dirty. And I'm just like, well, if that happened, that sucks, but they haven't done me dirty. I mean, if I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they are shady and they probably aren't someone I want to associate myself with, then you know what? I won't go near them. But at the same time, if I'm connecting with someone or networking with someone that someone else had a bad experience with, I'm not going to automatically assume that, that's a person not worth associating with just because, for all, I haven't heard both sides of the story. I don't really know what happened. And honestly, most of us shouldn't really give ourselves that much time for drama. We shouldn't allow that to be a part of our routine. And I generally try to avoid drama, and I'm better for it. You're better for it. And definitely don't create drama, because, again, dick move. And again, it all falls under the umbrella of the don't be a dick policy, which was pretty much established since the beginning of time. It is a borderline biblical principle. Don't be a dick. Be kind to people, even if they haven't been that kind to you. And mind your own business. Don't worry about what other people are doing unless it affects you in a negative or direct sense. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't worry about, how well that person's doing, or, especially if you have a beef with them and it irritates you that they might be doing better than you. Who gives a shit? You do your best, and you have fun while doing it, and don't worry about those other people. Again, this should all be about smoking cigars, making connections, making good friends, and having a good time. Even manufacturers know that. They know that it's all about providing a quality, enjoyable product and getting to sit down and smoke said product with the consumer. And I mean, the ones that I've the manufacturers and business people that I've interacted with who really embrace that and live it, those are the coolest people. And then people who are like-minded, again, so much fun to hang out with. When you start to become successful and you start to get more and more of a platform and an audience, it can be easy to just let it go to your head. So don't let it go to your head. Because once you do let it go to your head, you believe your own hype, you start to think you're the shit, that's when you start alienating people. That's when people start to maybe not want to spend time with you if they've seen that side of you and you used to be a lot more humble. Stay humble. That's the best thing you can do. Stay humble. Sometimes it's hard, but for the most part, it's really not that difficult. Stay humble, be grateful, and try not to step on other people, and don't be a dick. No matter which clique, club, group you belong to, no matter what you're trying to accomplish as a cigar influencer, those are principles that everyone can live by. And I think it's really important that we don't do anything to cause fracture in the community, because once we start doing that, then we're missing the whole point, and we might as well just pack it up and go home. I really hate seeing people do that and then continuing on doing what they're doing and losing sight of the whole reason why they started doing it in the first place. And it's all about just getting more and more and more and more and more and feeding that hunger. And yeah, it's not a good look. But in the words of Forrest Gump, that is all I have to say about that. And I don't have anything more to add. And some of you are probably like, thank God. But anyways, we've reached the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something from it. At the very least, I hope you thought it was entertaining. And if you did enjoy it, then please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please like this video. It helps me out a lot in the algorithm so people can continue to see these videos. And hey, drop a comment, because I love talking with you guys. I love it when you interact with me, because it just makes this all the more fun and worthwhile. So drop a comment and let's start a dialogue. But that's it, guys. I hope you're doing really well, keeping it smoky, and I hope some amazing things are happening for you. I wish the best for all of you. I love you. Thank you for your support, and as always, I will catch you in the next one.